Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I am back with another tier list, and in today's tier list, I'm going to be ranking the 12 most expensive signings in the history of football. Now, before you get mad and start typing and saying this is fucking clickbait, where's Griezmann, where's Coutinho, where's Dembele, where's Bale, where's Hazard? I did a whole video, I did two videos separately dedicated to Barca and Real Madrid's most expensive signings, so I didn't want to add those guys in this video because I would just be repetitive. So if you want to go check out my opinion on those guys, you can go check out those videos. They're on my page somewhere. But today, again, like I mentioned, we're not doing any entrances for Barca or Real Madrid, only exits. It's fine if they left those clubs, but we can't add players who came into those clubs because, again, like I mentioned, I already did those videos separately. And yeah, man, today we're going to talk about these guys, talk about their careers at these new clubs, talk about their stats, talk about the trophies that they've won, and put them into one of four categories. Today we have four categories. We got good, bad, so far so good, and so far so bad. Because there's a lot of young players here who just got signed like a year ago or just got signed this season, and I feel like it's a little unfair to put them in good or bad right away because we have to see how their career plays out still. So we can only judge it off how it's going so far. So again, I don't want to just put a label on them like so early on their new team. So that's why I added those two tiers at the bottom. So the two bottom tiers are reserved for guys who are kind of new to their team, and the two top tiers obviously are reserved for guys who either already left that team or we know what they are on those teams already. So yeah, man, this should be really fun. If you guys enjoyed this video, let me know in the comment section, and let's start ranking some expensive signings. First up is Antony, who came into Man United from Ajax for 95 million euros last summer. And he, to me, is going to go into so far bad. Antony has made 71 appearances for United. He scored 9 goals and has 4 assists. And he won an EFL Cup. Congratulations. Big whoop. He's been terrible, bro. 95 million pounds for him. That should show you how bad inflation is in modern football, where Antony costs 95 million euros, dude. That is insane. He scored in his debut. He kind of had like that Anthony Martial effect where he scored in his debut a beautiful goal. He cut in, I remember, on his left foot and curled it in. Kind of like a signature Antony goal because he does have a good shot on him. And everybody thought, oh my God, this guy's a savior. But he's been really bad for them. And I even think United fans don't like him. He's rubbish, bro. I'm using a fucking British term now. He's rubbish. He's utterly shit, you fucking wanker. Whatever. Anthony's just not good whatsoever, in my opinion. He also had that whole controversy with that woman off the pitch, which kept him out for a couple months. He really he's like a scumbag to me, honestly. He has the ego of a great player without any of the talent. He's not a good crosser. He complains constantly. And we know Bruno complains a lot, but at least Bruno provides something for the team. This guy complains and provides nothing for the team. And he, to me, is one of the biggest blemishes that Erik ten Hag has had since being a Man United manager. Erik ten Hag vouched for this guy so hard, and he's been nothing but terrible. He wouldn't start for any of the top 6 teams in the Premier League, in my opinion. And ten Hag still plays him and starts him some weeks when he has proven nothing, bro. He's annoying. He's a pest. I hate him. I don't hate him. That's a really strong word. I dislike him as a rival fan. I'm not sure how United fans feel about him, but the United fans that I talk to, my friends who support United, they don't like him either because, again, his attitude is terrible. And again, 95 million euros for him is a travesty. It's a highway robbery. Ajax should take that money and run, bro, because that's just a crazy price tag for a player like this. Again, if he had the ego that he has and he was a decent player for Man United, you at least tolerate it. I mean, Neymar had a high ego. You know, players like that. Ronaldo has a high ego, but they produce on the pitch. This guy has a high ego with none of the production. So again, for me, he's going to go to so far bad because he's been utterly shit for United. Next up, we have Moises Caicedo, who went from Brighton to Chelsea for 115 million pounds this summer. Here's the thing with Caicedo. Casuals will tell you that he's been terrible this year. But if you actually watch Chelsea play, you know he hasn't been all that bad. Now, he hasn't been amazing, but he hasn't been terrible. But people love to take clips and post them on TikTok, and people who don't actually watch the games, like I mentioned, love to say, oh, he has a bad clip on TikTok. He made a mistake, and I saw it on TikTok. That means he's having a terrible season. And Caicedo has not been having that bad of a year. But again, he hasn't been some outstanding player throughout this whole year. He had like a bad start, and then he's kind of picked up a little bit. But to me, he's going to go into so far bad because that price tag is horrendous, bro. 115 million pounds for Caicedo. Now, again, he was amazing at Brighton. And every time I watch this guy play for Ecuador in CONMEBOL, he's amazing. Okay, he's a really, really good player. And I think he's going to come good at some point. Chelsea have a lot of young players who, when they come good and they get a good manager and the right structure around them, they're going to be really, really good players. And that team's going to be a force to be reckoned with in the future, in the very near future, in my opinion. But again, to me, Caicedo's been closer to he's been on the tier, right? There's good, there's bad, and then there's like mid-good, mid-bad. He's been closer to like mid-bad in my opinion. And again, that $115 million price tag doesn't help him. If he was bought for like 50 or 60 or 70 million, you can kind of swallow that. That sounds fucking gross. No, that pause. You can't swallow anything. Guys, unless you like that stuff. I don't know what the fuck I'm saying. If he was like a little bit cheaper, you can at least live with it. But 115 million pounds is too much. And again, the production hasn't been all that great for me to put him in so far so good because he hasn't really been good. I can't lie to you guys and tell you that he's been good. Again, again, people that only watch football from clips on TikTok will tell you he's been terrible, the worst player in the Premier League. He's been far from that. He's been actually decent lately. But to put him in good, it's just not going to happen. So he's going to go into so far bad. Next up, we have Joao Felix, who cost 126 million euros, who went from Benfica to Atletico Madrid. And to me, he's going to go into bad. His stint at Atletico Madrid was not good whatsoever. He made 131 appearances for them, scored 34 goals, and had 18 assists and won a league. But this guy's currently on a second loan spell. 126 million euros, you don't expect to ever loan a player out that costs that much money. And he's on a second loan spell right now. Obviously, went to Chelsea last year. Was not great for them. He's at Barca this year. Obviously, you guys know I'm a Barca fan. I watched every game that he's played for Barcelona. He's decent some games. He's bad some games. He's really inconsistent, which is really the thing with Joao Cancelo. He's a very inconsistent player, and that's been him his whole career. Like, post-leaving Benfica, he had that one good year at Benfica where he scored over 20 goals, and obviously, he was one of the most promising youngsters in the world, and then went to Atletico Madrid, and he just hasn't been consistently great. Barely, like, he should be a everyday starter on every team in the world because how talented he is. He has a talent to be one of the best players in the world. I mean, that talent is still there, but he's extremely inconsistent. And for that, and like at Atletico Madrid specifically, he just wasn't great in my opinion. Like those stats are not good. 131 appearances, 34 goals, and 18 assists for a guy who's a striker or a forward. Obviously, like he plays high up the pitch. That's just not good enough in my opinion. So for that reason, he's gonna go into bad again. I hope he comes good for Barca, but we're talking about like his loan, because he's still a Real Madrid, not a Real Madrid, an Atletico Madrid player. Technically, obviously not technically, he is still an Atletico Madrid player because he still belongs to that team. He's just getting loaned out. But when you get loaned out twice, that's just not good enough in my opinion, so he's going to go into bad. Next up, we have Neymar, who left Barcelona and went to PSG in the summer of 2017 for a staggering 222 million euros, which is still 7 years later, to this day, the most expensive signing by a team in the history of football. Neymar at PSG made 173 appearances, scored 118 goals, and had 77 assists. Here's the thing with Neymar. I don't know where to put him. I'm going to put him in good because I can't put him in bad. He was not bad for PSG. He was a great player for PSG. I think people look at the injuries with Neymar, and rightfully so, because he made more appearances for Barca than he ever did for PSG. I think he spent like 2 more seasons at PSG than he did at Barcelona. He made more appearances for Barca than he ever did for PSG. Look, how crazy is that stat? But Neymar at PSG was a really good player. Again, he was injured all the time. Very injury prone. But when this guy played, he was one of the best players in the world. And I think people forget, like those years when Messi came in, he was arguably the best player, the best of that trio, Mbappe and Messi. Like his last season there, he was amazing, bro, up until he got injured. And again, that's the thing with Neymar. He gets injured, and he was brought into PSG to win the UCL, which he couldn't do. They made a final, and he was the best player on that team that made the final. And then the next season, they made the semifinal, and he was the best player on that team once again. And his stats were great, and his production was really, really good. And he was a fantastic player. I think Neymar, every year that he was at PSG when he was healthy, he was a top 5 or top 3 player in the world at worst, in my opinion. At worst. Neymar's always been talented, bro. He's always been, like Neymar, he's not a what if. We know what Neymar was, which is one of the greatest players, to me, at least to me, again, people might think I'm crazy, in the history of the game. I mean, but at PSG, it's weird because I'm not going to put him in bad because he wasn't bad. He was way more good than he was bad because his production is there. But the reason why I even considered putting him in bad is because, like I mentioned, he was brought in to win the UCL and he couldn't do that. PSG have never won a UCL in their history, but he did lead them to their first ever final, which is something that, I'll give him points for, but I'm not going to put him in bad next to Joao Felix. Neymar's tenure at PSG and Joao Felix's tenure at Atletico Madrid are not even close. Neymar is 100 times the player that Joao Felix was. So again, if there was like a tier between good and bad, I would put him in there. But again, not really, because I think he was good for PSG. So I'm gonna stick with my good. He's gonna be good. Again, the trophy cabinet isn't there because he won Ligue 1s and Coupe de France, but no one gives a fuck about any of that. He was there. He went there to win the UCL, which he couldn't do. But his production was still amazing. He was still one of the best players in the world, in my opinion, when he was at PSG. So he's gonna go into good for me. Next up, we have Paul Pogba, who went from Juventus to Man United for 105 million euros. And he, to me, is going to go into bad. Paul Pogba made 233 appearances while United. He scored 39 goals and had 51 assists. He won an EFL Cup and won a Europa League as well, obviously, that year with Jose Mourinho, 2016, 2017. Paul Pogba was a cautionary tale for all footballers, bro. That football has a way of humbling you. And football humbled Paul Pogba once he left Juventus. And he just got recently suspended for doping for 4 years. He's going to be out of football for 4 years, Paul Pogba, because of doping. And this guy, bro, when he was coming out of Juventus, I remember watching him in that UCL campaign where they made the final. He was fantastic, bro. He was one of the most coveted players in football. I remember Barca were linked to him, Real Madrid were linked to him, and he ended up going back to United, where obviously he kind of started his professional career. But dude, he just dealt with a lot of injuries, was really inconsistent. He had a couple good seasons, a couple good moments. His 2018-2019 season was decent. The 2016-2017 season with Mourinho, where he won those 2 trophies, like I mentioned, he was pretty good as well. but he just was not the player they wanted him to be. Pogba had the potential, and I mean this with every I believe this with every fiber of my being. He had the talent, the skill set, the potential to be the greatest midfielder the game has ever seen. His physical skill, like you can build you build players like Pogba in a fucking lab, bro. Like physically, he's the perfect midfielder physically, bro. He's big, he's strong, he's fast. He has a great shot on him. He's a great passer as well. I mean, this guy had every attribute you want a player to have. And unfortunately, going to United, that just didn't work out. And 105 million is crazy, bro. Like he was not. He should have cost them 30 million. Honestly, I think 30 million would have been a more just price tag to pay for Paul Pogba. But 105 and the production that he gave them for those what was it like? He was there for 5 or 6 years or 7 years. It just wasn't good enough. So for that reason, to me, he's gonna go into bad. But again, bro, Paul Pogba is one of my favorite players in the history of football. I really wanted this guy to work out. It's just a shame that it couldn't. But yeah, he's going to go into bad, man. What could have been? Next up, we have Jack Grealish, who went from Aston Villa to Man City for 117 million euros 2 years ago. Jack Grealish, to me, is going to go into so far good. I don't think he's been at City for long enough to where I can make a definitive claim on him being good or bad. But so far, so good in my opinion. He's made 116 appearances while at the club. He scored 14 goals and 17 assists. Again, those stats are not eye-popping, but if you watch Jack Grealish play, you know he's been very decent for City. Now, this year, he's kind of fallen out of favor with Pep. I'm not sure what the fuck happened to him. And then this first year there, he was decent, but again, wasn't great. But that last season, when they won the treble, he was fantastic for them, bro. One of their best players, in my opinion. And this guy, again, the stats don't do it justice. If you watch him play last year, this guy was one of the best playmaking wingers in football last year. I mean, taking players on one-on-one. What Jeremy Doku is doing now, that's what Jack Grealish did last year. Now, I'm not sure why, I'm not sure why Pep is, he's not in the starting lineup anymore. But Jack Grealish, bro, I mean, I think any team in the world would love to have Jack Grealish. Me as a Barca fan, I would love to have him at Barcelona. Again, we can't pay 117 million, but I don't think that price tag is too much for Jack Grealish. I think he's that talented of a player. And again, if you go back and watch him last season, he was one of the best players on a treble-winning team. So for me, again, the stats aren't really there, but the impact on the team, I mean, this guy, I don't know if City win the UCL without Jack Grealish. I know that sounds crazy, but I'm not sure they do. Maybe people are saying I'm crazy. Of course they do, but yeah, maybe so because City have so much talent. But he definitely aided them in doing so. And in the final in Istanbul, he was actually pretty decent. And again, he was great in the quarterfinals against Bayern Munich. He was amazing as well. Yeah, so for me, he's gonna go into so far so good because again, I don't think he's been I can't put him in the same tier as Caicedo and Antony. This guy was a starter on a trouble-winning team and one of again to me one of the most important players. So he's gonna go to so far good. Again, 117 million is very expensive, but I think Jack Grealish is gonna come good for that price tag at some point in his career if he hasn't already. Next up, we have Enzo Fernandez, who went from Benfica to Chelsea for 121 million euros. Oh man, Chelsea just break the bank, huh? This guy is gonna go right next to Caicedo, his teammate, in so far bad. Enzo's been at Chelsea for a year now. I think exactly a year. And look, similar to Caicedo, I think everything I said for Caicedo can also apply to Enzo. Enzo, obviously, he had that amazing World Cup, won young player of the tournament at the World Cup. And this guy, I watched him at River Plate. He was amazing at Benfica. Who's really good again on the national team. Every time he plays for Argentina, he's amazing. I think it's hard to judge players at Chelsea right now because Chelsea's such a dumpster fire and they lack so much structure. And their manager, to me, is just not up to par. And what they had last year was terrible as well. So it's hard to judge a guy like Enzo Fernandez when you look at him on the national team, a team that actually has structure and good players around him, and he can actually play his role to the best of his abilities. He's amazing, but again, 126 million or whatever the fuck it was for him, it's not, I can't put him in good. A lot of people troll Enzo Fernandez because they hate Argentina and they hate Messi and they think, oh, this guy's overrated because of the World Cup. Enzo Fernandez is not overrated. Again, his price tag might make him overrated, but as a player, he's not overrated whatsoever. He's, to me, one of the most promising young midfielders in football. He's that good. But again, I think Chelsea right now, they just suck the life out of players that come in there. But for me, again, he's just not, he can't be in so far so good, but he's gonna have to go into so far bad because the price tag is way too high and the production, similar to Caicedo, has not been there to where you can justify that price tag. Next up, we have Harry Kane, who went from Spurs to Bayern Munich for 105 million euros in August of last year. So he's only been at Bayern for 8 months at this point. And he to me is going to go into so far good. Harry Kane has the same number of goals as he does appearances for Bayern Munich. He has 31 appearances and 31 goals, and he has 8 assists. Now, the Harry Kane curse might be real because it's looking like Bayern Munich are not going to win a single trophy this year. They're not going to win the UCL, in my opinion. They're not going to win the Bundesliga. That's going to go to Leverkusen, and I'm pretty sure they already got knocked out of the of the DFB Pokal, obviously the domestic cup. But Harry Kane has not been the problem on that team. He's been arguably the best player in Europe this year. Now, I don't think he has been, but definitely in the top 3 or top 5. I think it's obviously Jude Bellingham, Mbappe, Harry Kane. Who else am I missing? Lautaro's been amazing as well. There's been a lot of great players in Europe this year, but Harry Kane has for sure been one of them. I just don't think I don't know, it's weird because he has to drop so deep sometimes because Bayern Munich really don't give him that much service. For a team that should be creating chances for fun because Bayern Munich have a lot of talent and they have an offensive-minded coach like Thomas Tuchel who likes to create chances, he doesn't really get the ball that much. And it's fucking weird. I don't know why. I mean, they have the personnel, but he has to drop to the halfway line and basically play as a CDM to get the ball half of the time. So again, to me, in terms of like his production, Harry Kane has been one of the most productive players in Europe this year. The team around him is not performing, but again, the season's not over. They might, who knows? They still have the second leg of the UCL against Lazio. They might go on and win that, and who knows what happens in the knockout style tournament. Anything can happen, especially with a team like Bayern Munich, who, like I mentioned, have a lot of talent. But Harry Kane has been so far so good, but I don't think the price tag was too high. This guy's one of the best strikers in the world, and he's proving it this year. Next up, we have Romelu Lukaku, who went from Inter to Chelsea for 115 million euros in the summer of 2021. Lukaku's going to go into bad. I mean, he spent 1 year at Chelsea. That's how bad he was. He made 44 appearances for the club. He scored 15 goals and had 2 assists. This guy was coming off a great season at Inter, obviously in Serie A. Was amazing, bro. He was super productive for Inter. And Chelsea, all they were missing was a striker. They were the defending European champions with fucking Kai Havertz and Timo Werner. All they needed was a striker to come in and actually bag the goals. And they were like, oh, we're going to bring in Lukaku. He's going to be amazing for us. We need a player like him. And they bring him in, and he underperformed heavily. He had a press conference where he was talking about how he misses Inter in the middle of the season while playing for Chelsea. But while he was at Inter, he was like super eager to go to Chelsea. It was just like a really weird situation. So for me, Lukaku, again, 15 goals and what was it? 15 goals and 2 assists. Again, that's not terrible production, but they brought this guy in to be like the safe, and it didn't really work out. So for that reason, he is going to go into bad for me. Just one of the worst signings Chelsea have made in recent years. I mean, to bring in a guy for 150 million and only stay for 1 year, that is, oh my God, bro. Chelsea, I'm surprised how Chelsea are not broke yet. Next up, we have Ronaldo, who went from Real Madrid to Juventus for 100 million euros in the summer of 2018, and he to me is going to go into good. Now, Ronaldo and Neymar are very similar in the sense that their production for those teams was there. Like Neymar and Juventus, Neymar for PSG, sorry, like I said, was one of the best players in the world every year that he was there, basically. And Ronaldo for Juventus was one of the best players in the world every single year he was there. He was a goal machine for them. He made 134 appearances for the club. He scored 101 goals and had 22 assists. And this guy was as prolific a goal scorer as Serie A has ever seen. But again, like Neymar, they brought him in to win the UCL and he couldn't get it done. Now, was it Ronaldo's fault? Absolutely not. He was not the problem on those teams whatsoever. And those Juventus teams, you guys know I'm not the biggest Ronaldo fan, but I'd be lying here if I sat here and said they were amazing teams. They weren't that good of teams. And I think Ronaldo, especially against Ajax and against, was it Porto or was it Lyon? I forget which one, but he carried his load. He carried his load. Oh my God. He like held up his end of the bargain. That sounds way better. Not carried his load. He held up his end of the bargain and he scored goals in those ties. But again, it's hard to win a UCL when you don't have the team around you. But Ronaldo individually for Juventus, he was amazing, bro. I mean, he was a goal scoring machine, and he was like a different player at Juventus than he was at Real Madrid, because at Real Madrid, even at the end, he was a poacher, but at Juventus, he became even more of a poacher, kind of just like an in-the-box monster. But yeah, to me, again, his production is there. Did not win the UCL, but I'm not going to put that on him because, again, you can't win it by yourself. So he's going to go into good for me. Next up is Declan Rice, who went from West Ham to Arsenal for 116 million euros this summer. And he, to me, is going to go into so far so good. He's been arguably the best player on that Arsenal team this year. Declan Rice has been that good, worth every penny for Arsenal so far. He's been one of, Arsenal are challenging for the UCL. Actually, they lost to Porto recently, but they're one of the challengers for the UCL. They're one of the challengers for the Premier League. And a big part of that has to do with the fact that Declan Rice came into that team and he's been solid, man. Rock solid at that pivot position. He's been amazing. Obviously, saved them some points against United earlier this year where he scored that winner at the Emirates. So he's been great for them, obviously. One of the best young English talents, in my opinion. He's 100% going to go into so far so good. Declan Rice has been class. And then lastly, Kylian Mbappe, who's the second most expensive signing of all time, also by PSG. Went from Monaco to PSG in the summer of 2017 or 2018, I'm pretty sure. No, 2018 actually, for 180 million euros, and he's going to go into good. Kylian Mbappe has been amazing, bro. Amazing. Now, he was brought in to win the UCL like Neymar, but again, I mean, he's been amazing. He was part of that team that made the final. He's made 292 appearances. Listen to these stats. 292 appearances, 244 goals, 105 assists. He's, to me, the best player in the world. Now, obviously, we know he's going to Real Madrid at the end of the year. He's leaving PSG finally and going to Real Madrid, an actual league, an actual team that can actually contend for trophies, because we know PSG, they're never going to win the UCL. I feel comfortable in saying PSG are never going to win the UCL. And now he's going to go into Real Madrid, which is going to be a nightmare for me as a Barca fan. But you know what? I look forward to seeing this guy in a competitive league and seeing what he can do, because to me, he's the best player in the world. And he just has to go to a league where he's relevant every single week, because we see this guy at the World Cup and at the Euros. Every time he plays for France, which is like obviously the big stage, and even in the UCL, he's amazing. amazing. But at PSG playing against fucking Leo in midweek, no one cares about watching those games. Even me, when Messi played for PSG, I barely tune in to watch those games because I don't care about that. But now he's going obviously to Real Madrid, which hurts as a Barca fan. One more time, I'm going to say it, but I'm happy for Mbappe. But yeah, at PSG, bro, he's been arguably their best player over the past 4 or 5 years. And he's become the best player in the world, in my opinion, while playing for PSG. So he's going to go into good 100%. And that, guys, is the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, man. Thank you so much for the support. I love every single one of you, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace out.